Okay, I think we're live. Yep, I got you here. So I'm gonna share your. Let's see if I can share it.
Yeah, it looks like we're 5x5 on my end, man.
Okay, we'll let people gather in a little bit. I told everyone on our end if they wanted to join in to go over to your feed so that everyone can see everyone's comments. Obviously, people can show up in the comments. Well, I don't know if you've done on this end this way before, but if there's any comments that you want to lift up, you'll have to let me know. I think only I can lift them up onto the screen. But so anyway, well, welcome everyone. Craig and Jonah here from the Uncharted Catholic Man. We have Jeff Putnam, right? Did I pronounce that right?
You did. You're one of the few.
All right. I usually get it wrong. Jeff, for those in my audience that don't know you, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about you, your family, whatever you do, and then let's start talking.
Well, as Craig said, I am Jeff Putnam. On Twitter, I'm the Jeff Putnam, just so it
only
doesn't
one.
get confused with all the others. The only one worth talking about, anyway. No, I'm married, going on 20 years now, 9 kids, 8 boys, 1 girl.
Oh.
Wife's a cradle Catholic. I am a convert to the church. I started attending Mass back in May of 2023. That was my first Mass outside that one time with the weird Catholic kid I knew in high school. And my first Mass was the first of many because I haven't stopped going since. And I officially came into the church after a longer wait than I wanted. Couldn't come in during the Easter Vigil because my wife was a cradle Catholic and I was not, nor was I baptized. So we had to have our marriage convalidated. And it wasn't until June 22nd that I officially came into the church, a few hours after my marriage was convalidated. Now I write for a living, fiction, nonfiction. I don't make any money from anything Catholic. I don't do any of that. I make money from ghostwriting bestsellers for other people who want to say they're an author but don't have the skill set to do so.
How long have you been doing that?
About 5 years now.
Okay. Enjoy doing that then?
It beats swinging a sledgehammer and getting up. Well, I was going to say getting up at 5, but I already get up at 5 because my husky won't let me sleep past 5.
Pays better than the Catholic media too.
Probably. I wouldn't mind, I wouldn't mind getting on EWTN. Ave Maria Press.
All right. Well, remember
if they'll
have
me. They probably won't. They probably won't because I'm a former pagan and I'm covered knuckles to knuckles in runic tattoos.
So I gotta ask you about that. So you're a new Catholic and you still smell like chrism probably. So what? I don't know where they put it. I don't know where they put it in your diocese, but what? So your wife's a cradle Catholic. Was she going to Mass and doing that throughout your marriage while you were doing your thing?
She was not.
Okay.
We weren't really religious at all. We attended Christian religious. I'll say that. Mm-hmm. She never stopped, praying, reading her Bible, praying her rosary, all this other. But she didn't attend Mass. She was pretty much lapsed. Mm-hmm. As a cradle Catholic, she was baptized, but never confirmed and never received First Communion. Even though she's a Hispanic woman who grew up in the Boston, Lowell, Massachusetts area. So you can't get more Catholic than that, even if you are the Pope. And she's all of her and her siblings are all named after saints, but somehow she didn't, get confirmed, come into full communion with the church. But no, we attended random Protestant churches here and there when her Protestant aunt would ask, or there was just one nearby. And I'm like, maybe we should go to church as a family. Might be a good thing to do. Not really serious about the whole thing, but it's probably something we should be doing, kind of thing. So we just kind of raised our kids with pretty much Catholic values, but we just weren't Catholic.
Well, I was wondering about that. So, like, which of you sort of maybe it was at the same time, but did one of you kind of lead the charge either to come back to the church or join the church? Was it you or her first, or?
That was me.
Hmm,
And the way it came about was I was writing a book with a client, not for a client, but with a client, something I rarely ever do. And I've got the book up here on my shelf. It's called Men of Grit, Strong as Steel, and it's about what it means to be a good Christian man.
Hmm.
Now, the author, Jerry Adams, good friend of mine, he's a Protestant, and it involved he and I on a Zoom call twice a week at 5 a.m. for about 2 hours, where we co-wrote and co-edited the book together. We would have all these discussions about scripture, and it was pretty much based on the theme of esto vir, which is Latin for be a man. And it's reportedly, by legend or tradition, whatever, the last thing that King David said to Solomon before King David passed away: be a man, or at least a snippet of what he said. I hope he said more than that. It's kind of the important thing when you're a dad. But we went down the road, and it was basically an 18-month Bible study for me. Now, I grew up Southern Baptist,
Okay.
but I fell away from being a Protestant when I was 15. Joined the Army at 17. The only time I ever went to chapel there was just to get out of the friggin' barracks. And it was an 18-month Bible study and a lot of introspection. And I found myself sitting on my patio one morning after finishing up a call with Jerry. And I just felt this urge to pray. And I talked to Jerry about feeling it as well. And he was never pressuring me like, oh, you should come in, you come into the church, or you should be a Christian, or any of that. He's just my friend. And he was like, man, if you're feeling the need to pray, just pray. And so I prayed right there on my patio. I said, God, I don't even know if I'm doing this right, or even if you can hear me, but I don't know what I'm doing. And if you are there, give me some kind of a sign. A few days later, good friend of mine, who is now the godfather, him and his wife are godparents to my children. He's a Catholic convert of about 12 years now. He said, well, what do you want to do? I said, well, I'm thinking about becoming Catholic. I don't even know why I said it. It just kind of came out. And he said, okay, I'll tell you something. He goes, you don't have to go to a traditional Latin mass, but if you can look, he goes, but if you look on your Google Maps and you find a parish near you that offers the traditional Latin mass, chances are it's a pretty good parish. I said, okay, that's fair. Because I mean, I've known Catholics for a while, so it's not like, what do these people do? It wasn't like that. And I've known about the church politics way before I was in the church. And so I did that. I Googled it, found a church, the only one within a 6-hour driving radius, just happened to be 35, 40 minutes away from me. Cool. And it's the home of the TLM in our deanery, which is now my parish.
It's a diocesan parish, though?
Yes, it's a diocesan parish, but they have a low English mass at 8, high sung mass at 10, Latin mass at 12. But we go to the 10 because 12's just too late in the afternoon for the family life.
Yeah.
So I went to mass, and I remember I had my foot in the aisle preemptively because I've heard so many horror stories about progressive Catholics. And I'm like, okay, if this priest says anything that's even remotely progressive / woke, I'm not going to make a scene, but I am going to quietly excuse myself and my family, slip out the door, and we'll find someone else next week. Well, Father Christopher Smith of Prince of Peace, Taylor, South Carolina, gets up there. And if you have a chance, look him up. With his qualifications, he should probably be Pope. I have zero doubt that he'll not be a bishop. And his homily comes up there. First homily I've ever actually actively listened to or paid attention to. And he's knocking down any of the rumors and talk that have been kind of proliferating throughout the Catholic Church about ordaining women. And he said, it's just not going to happen. So if that's what you want, go be Episcopalian. And I put my foot all the way back into the pew because I realized this is exactly where I needed to be. Mm-hmm. And right after Mass, I introduced myself and my family to him. He goes, well, thanks for visiting. Hope to see you next week. I said, oh, you will. And now I've got my own men's ministry there that I co-founded. So been there since May 8th, 2023.
So I have to ask, so you're in South Carolina then, huh?
Yes.
I think you tweeted out, maybe you're hanging out with Father Longenecker. Is he in your neighborhood then, or how far apart?
Father Longenecker lives probably, technically my parish priest is Father Longenecker's parish priest because he lives within the radius of his diocese. And, you know, dioceses are they're geographical as far as their jurisdiction.
Okay.
So he actually lives within the radius of my church, and he doesn't live that far from my church. He and I had drinks at some kind of Iron Hills pub thing. Not good. We won't be going back there.
Oh.
So
the conversation was good. The drinks were, yeah.
Yeah, it's steaks on the grill with him and Joseph Pierce at Father Longenecker's house tomorrow. So
that sounds like a lot of fun. I can't wait to hear about that. So, okay, so I have to back up a little bit then. So your wife is cradle Catholic, but lapsed Catholic. You are a Southern Baptist turned pagan. How the heck did you end up with 9 kids? Like, I just got to know that. Like, how the heck?
My wife thinks I'm irresistible.
Sure, we all think that.
Well, the funny thing is I always had so many people, and you've got 9 kids, so you know the pain I'm talking about here.
Yeah.
You know what causes that, don't you?
Yeah.
Boy, you got a football team. Gee, thanks, mister. I've never heard
First
that.
time I'm hearing this, yeah.
First time I've ever heard that. But no, we just never cared about how many kids we have. If it started to get tight financially, I'd go get a second job. I don't care. It got tight financially. I'll go get a third job. I'll get a side hustle. If we have more kids, we have more kids. She's one of 6, and I'm in the middle of 6. Okay. But my older 3 are from my dad's first wife.
Okay. So what's the age range of your kids now? I think you mentioned your youngest is like 9 or something like that, if I heard.
25 to 9.
Okay. So you were kind of busier. Like mine are 20, 21 on down to 2. So I don't know what that's.
Well, listen, my wife met me. She was 24.
Okay.
I was 18. And I was a total Riz machine in my U.S. Army uniform. And so I'm pulling the 24-year-old Latina at 18 and making an honest woman out of her eventually.
My oldest son's a Marine, and I'm just scared to death every time he talks about the girls that start showing up. So
yeah, I've got one in the military now. He's down in Florida with the 7 Special Forces group. He's got a good girl. Her family's from Colombia. She's Catholic.
There's a Colombian girl he's been talking about too, so I don't know what it is.
Yeah, she's from Colombia. She's Catholic, but most importantly, she's rich.
Well, my wife, this is the way moms think. She immediately thinks there's some nefarious drug lords situation going on, and I'm just like, is her family well off? Does she have money? And
I'm sure that
I don't care how she got it.
No, I'm sure this probably happened with this girl's father, but not from the criminal sense. I think he worked for the government and may have come into some of the found money.
Okay.
I don't care.
I'm not here to judge either. So,
I mean, they got to pay for the wedding anyway. It's the bride.
Okay. All right. See, you had 9 kids. So, and I think you already mentioned this in chat. So you haven't had to deal with all the fun of NFP and all that stuff. You've just been whatever happens, huh?
I mean, we've known about NFP since we started going to RCIA. It was one of the first handful of classes they taught. But we're like, doesn't really apply to us because our plan is if we have kids, we have kids.
And that was your plan even before you became.
Yeah,
Catholic,
it just kind of
right?
lined all the way up because obviously we didn't believe in contraception before.
Yeah, I just find that so remarkable. Not that
It's incredible.
it's such an odd situation from what I guess
From my life experience.
from my limited life experience. Yeah. So okay, so is your wife then all gangbusters about the faith, just like you? Then you guys are kind of lockstep
Yeah.
there, and the kids are all.
Yeah. It was, I'm the one that told my family like a few days before we went to mass for the first time at our parish. Guess what? You're all Catholic now. and we're going to mass this Sunday. So Saturday night, you're going to bed early. We're getting up.
How old was the oldest child at that point?
Well, there's only 5 in the house. The rest are grown, stationed, moved out, whatever. The oldest in the house, he's now 19. He's just like, huh?
Yeah, so how did that go over? Yeah, that'd be hard. That'd be a hard sell. They all going along.
You heard what I said.
Okay.
Now, I didn't force it down their throat. My 18-year-old son, my 19-year-old son, they attended RCIA a handful of times and went, maybe not now. Okay, what am I going to do? Just beat you and say you go? No. So that's cool. But everyone else baptized or baptized in First Holy Communion. 16-year-old who was 15 at the time, or sorry, he's 15 now, getting ready to be 16. Full confirmation because he went through RCIA with us rather than going through the catechism, because then he wouldn't be getting confirmed until college based off that whole timeline of system.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And he's actually an altar server now.
Okay. So the parish you're at now, then, is it the same priest that does the Latin Mass does the Novus Ordo then, or is it a different?
Yes.
Clearly, okay.
Yes. The reason he is the parish priest is because they needed a priest who was trained and formed in the Latin Mass, and so they were like, just make him the parish priest over here. And so that's pretty much how that happened. Our pastoral vicar does the Latin Mass as well. He's an Anglican convert. Matter of fact, so is Father Smith. He's a convert, not an Anglican convert, but he converted when he was like 13. So I think all of the priests in my area that are actually worth a damn are all converts. So there's something to that.
Are any of them married? I know Father Longenecker is an Anglican convert and married, but
yeah, Father Longenecker is married, but none of the other priests that I know of around here are. Okay. But I just know that most of them are converts.
Okay.
Not quite cradle Catholics, but weren't married before going into the priesthood.
So one question I like to ask people who are converts, especially later in life, whatever, is, and maybe it's all you're in the newlywed stage with the faith or whatever, but is there anything about the faith that was the most difficult or troubling for you to wrap your head around or accept?
No. And I'll say this because I'm probably unique in the way my mind works. I can't remember exactly when I heard it, but it was from Father Smith in one of the classes that he taught it in our RCIA group. And he mentioned about saying, it's okay to say, I don't know, Lord, but I trust you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the attitude that I've taken with the Catholic faith. Even if there's things doctrinal, dogmatic, whatever it is, whether I know about it now or whether I don't, it's obviously true, and I'm just too dumb to understand it. I can study it to understand it, but it's there for a reason, and maybe I'm just too dumb to ever understand it, but it doesn't matter. I just have to believe that it's true because it's literally there under the authority of Christ himself. So who am I to argue with that guy?
Do you ever worry that the sort of the newness and the enthusiasm wears off over time? And I just, we've come across people that have kind of gone on this trajectory where they were not Catholic, became very traditional Catholic, and then somewhere things go off the rail and they're done with religion entirely. And I'm not suggesting that's going to happen to you or whatever, but do you think about that at all? Do you worry about that at all? Or are you just comfortable where you're at, that it's not even on your mind?
Honestly, it's never occurred to me. I am the type of guy that when I do something, I do go all in. I was 35 years old when I started. Well, I bought a heavyweight, a 200-pound heavy bag for my patios because I was going to the gym all the time anyway. I just needed some cardio. I hit the bag for 20 minutes and said, man, this is kind of fun. The next day I joined a Golden Gloves boxing gym, and within 3 months I was in the ring fighting Olympians or former Olympians. The only reason I'm not boxing now is because of a 12-round smoker, which is kind of like an unofficial, unsanctioned fight with the kid. I say kid because he was 19, I was 35, who won the junior welterweight Olympic championship when he was 15. I didn't die, but I did get a whole lot of brain damage from that. I had like a grade 3 concussion and blurry vision for about 7 weeks. Otherwise, I'd still be doing it.
I'm not surprised. This is sort of the personality that I had gathered from you from.
But when, in relating that to the Catholic faith, I'm all in until I'm dead. And the only reason I'm not all in with boxing now is because being dead was a real possibility with a good hit to the head.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
How did you fare in your other matches?
I ended with an official record in the U.S. amateurs of 5 losses, 3 wins.
Oh, that's pretty good. Almost 300. I mean, that's pretty amazing, really.
Yep. So the odds weren't all that in my favor, but my fighting style mimicked Mickey Ward. I just soaked up a whole lot of punches with my face until I got a shot in.
So how big? Can you tell me how big a guy are you? I only see what's on camera.
Right now, I'm 5'6". Back then, I was 5'6" too.
That hasn't changed.
Yeah, that hasn't changed. At one point, when I started boxing, I was at 170 because I was really into heavy lifting. I mean, I'm probably the only guy that was 5'6", deadlifting 525. I had this Aquaman build with the giant foot-long beard and long hair.
Hence the 9 kids, right?
Right. But then I started boxing, and boxing and muscles don't go hand in hand. So I had to stop training so heavy because she's a very jealous chick, boxing is.
Yeah.
And I had to cut weight. And I cut all the way down to 147, which was welter. Well, the problem is all the other welterweight guys out there are like 6'3" with banana arms.
Yeah.
And so I was still just getting toasted. And these are like your psychotic Irish guys, right? 5'11" to 6'3". And then there's me, like my arm is as long as your shin. This isn't working out.
Right.
So I had to drop another weight class. I dropped all the way down to 138.5, which was light welter. So I looked like an organic vegan. And instead of fighting the psychotic Irish guys, I was fighting the little mean and fast Filipinos and Mexicans.
Okay. Where you get punched in the face really fast.
Yeah. But fortunately, I still retained a good bit of my strength. So when I hit them, which was very rare for, as you know, 5 losses, it hurt.
Yeah. So how long did you box?
A couple of years.
And is it something that you encourage your kids to do at all, or?
Absolutely not.
Yeah. You at least had the good sense to not do that, right?
I mean, look, boxing's kind of like rodeoing because I was really stupid and did that when I was a kid too. Nothing quite like getting stomped on and thrown across the arena by a 1,200-pound bull that wants to murder your face.
I used to watch rodeo, but I never understood how you mentally convince yourself to do that. It just seemed like such.
Oh, it's pretty much kind of like I bet you won't do it, and you're like, now I gotta.
Yeah.
So did you actually ride a bull?
Yeah, once.
How did that go?
I said once.
Once, okay. Learned a little faster on the bull riding stuff then, huh?
Yeah, I switched to saddle bronc and bareback, but
Okay. All right.
even then, it still wasn't worth all the pain. I'm seriously considering doing an open rodeo here soon, just for shiggles one more time.
What was the fasting like when you cut from 170 to 138 and a half? Like, how many calories did you eat, and how did that go?
I went from eating about 4,000, 4,500 calories a day to 1,800 a day. I was not a pleasant person to be around. Like, I hated the air.
Yeah. Small price to pay, though, for what you're trying to accomplish, right?
Yeah. Never do that again, though.
At any point, did your wife question what you were doing?
She's been with me since 2004, and she hasn't stopped asking that question.
Because, I mean, that's quite a transformation in mid-30s. Going to go from 170 in powerlifting to boxing and 138 and a half pounds.
Yeah. She was like, okay. And then she would never watch me fight because she's like, I don't want to see you get hurt. And then she would get like freaked out when I brought home like my mouthpiece or my headgear. Because in the amateurs, you have to wear, a helmet, right?
Yeah.
And doesn't matter. Your brain still sloshes around when you get hit hard. But she would see like blood caked up inside, like around the mouthpiece, or I'd come home and I got blood caked in my beard, and she just go wash. Okay.
And you're in your late 30s, right? When this is going mid 30s?
Yeah.
It's amazing fortitude.
Yeah.
If nothing else.
That's the nice way to put it. So what do you do for psychotic fun now? Now that you're a little older, a little wiser. I don't even know how old you are now, but
I mellow it out now with drinking.
I can get on that plan.
Most of it is in my pool with a cigar and margaritas.
Okay. All right.
I mean, I have a men's group, and we still go and do like cool stuff. Like we'll go exploring some caves, and I'm talking about those caves where you got to get on your belly and squeeze through the gaps, and we do stuff like that. Or we go hiking up to like the summit of Table Rock, which is only, I don't know, 3,500 feet. Mm-hmm. And it's like a 3.5 mile. So 3,500 feet in elevation change over 3.5 miles. It's pretty steep, but mm-hmm. I'm kind of like a Labrador. If I get tired out, I'm calm for a couple of weeks.
Okay. All right. So now are you must be in your, well, how old are you? Are you in your late 40s? Are you in your 50s?
No, I am just shy of 38.
What? Okay, so this is all like
very recent.
When you talk about this stuff, it sounds like it happened years ago. I'm not.
All of it, everything except for the rodeo stuff, all happened within the last 7 years.
So you just got your midlife crisis out of the way. Now you're just gonna.
I did it early, so I wouldn't have to do it later. Look, concussions, broken teeth, all that other. It's so much cheaper to just pay the hospital than to, spend that kind of money on like a new 20-year-old or a sports car. It's a lot cheaper.
Good advice right there.
Okay. All right. So, okay. So I'm curious then. So what, cause you did you have kind of a big kind of Twitter following? Cause you have a huge Twitter channel. Did that all predate you coming into the church, or is that all just Catholic stuff, or what can you tell me
that
about
predated me. I joined Twitter in 2019. I started a company my first company back in 2018, launched it in 2019, and my wife still doesn't like the fact that I spent all of our life savings on that company. And so I didn't have any money to even advertise. And I just figured, I see screenshots of tweets on Facebook all the time. Apparently they can see everywhere. Right. So I went ahead and spent that money, kept that company, grew it to about 60 employees within 3 years, sold it last year. But it was pretty much through building that company and side hustles and stuff like that built a following.
Okay. What if I could ask, what was that? What did you do with that company, or what was it all about?
It's called Rugged Legacy Grooming Supply. The company still exists. I just don't own it anymore. My face is still on the website because I have a really cool beard in that photo, and they asked that they could still use my image.
No one's ever asked me that, and I don't think it's ever going to happen. So,
well, that's which is what we were talking about before. The other guy, you said he's better looking. He should be on camera.
Well, no, that's all relative too.
They might ask him.
Yeah. I just have the sense on the side.
Yeah.
Well, we sold men's grooming products. It was beard balms, beard oils, shampoos, conditioners, beard wash, stuff like that. And I started off making it all by hand in my kitchen because I was sick and tired of working for people that were dumber than me.
Okay.
Which doesn't take a lot. But...
So you're in. You have 9 kids at that point, right? And you're supporting.
Youngest
your
was born in 2014.
Okay. So you've got.
I see a comment. Someone over here saying.
Well, someone was at
oldest is 25. That's correct. My wife had children prior to us, but I'm the only father he's ever known.
Oh, okay. All right. That's because we were trying to
do the math.
Were you 14? Yeah, we were trying to figure that. Okay. All right. I get it. Okay.
No.
Okay.
I knew that was eventually going to come up in a question, and if it didn't, I wasn't even going to say anything. But
well, I'm not
I
smart
saw the
enough to
question
do
here.
all that math. That's why we have guys in the comments to figure that out. So okay, all right. How old were you when you had your first kid? You fathered first.
I was 18.
Okay, all right. And then, but you were pretty young yet when your last one was born. So just over 30 then, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Gosh.
Glad to clear that up for you, Midnight Philosopher.
Yeah, there are fact checkers. Okay. Okay.
I'm doing quantum math over here.
Yeah, right. Okay, I got it. So you sold the company, and then that's when you got into the writing, or I don't know if ghostwriting is the right term, whatever term you use for doing the writing. Then, and that's kind of been your gig. It sounds like you're doing pretty good at that, then, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's keeping me fed so far. Anything can change, but there's no shortage of CEOs that want to tell their come up story, but don't have the time or the talent to write a book. So they're always looking to hire people. How
did you decide to do that? How did you like to switch from running a company to writing like that?
Well, I always wanted to be a writer. Ever since I was a kid, I saw a picture of Ernest Hemingway on a sailboat with a machine gun, and he was hunting sharks. And I thought, that's what a writer does? That's me, buddy. To this day, I still haven't been able to go shark hunting with a machine gun. But I'm only 38.
Yeah.
Right. But no, I got into writing, like, I guess you could call it semi-professionally, because I needed to drive traffic to my company's website. And me being the Googlepreneur that I am, I was like, blogs, that drives traffic. Let's do this. And so I started blogging. And then eventually people said, hey, you're good at blogging. You want to write blogs on my site? Hey, you ever thought about a book? Well, then I wrote a book, and then I wrote a second book, and then I published them both within the same 6-month period. And then they did really well on Amazon. And then someone said, I want to write a book. Can you help me? So I started co-writing, and then it was just fine. I'll do it for you. It was kind of like this stage of evolution.
So do people find you directly, or do you work through like some sort of I don't even know what they call them, some company that handles all that?
Right now, I do both. I take independent clients, but I also receive a steady log of clients through a publishing house that she just sends everything my way. And the best part is she's Catholic too, so I don't have to write weird stuff.
Okay. And what's the volume like? I don't even know what an average day looks like. Are you like working on 10 different manuscripts at a time? Or you're like, nope, I'm doing this one until it's done, and then I'm working on the next one. What does that even look like?
It depends on the client load and the time frame of which I've got to deliver certain milestones. Like if we work in certain milestones, it's like, okay, the first 17,000 words, so it's like 5 chapters. I write it, send it to the publisher. She sends it to the client. The client goes, okay, I like this, this, and this. Can we change this? Can we fix this? Then they send it back. I'll do some revisions. Okay, it's approved. Now time for the second milestone. I pick up where I left off. So in doing that, I've got about a 10 to 15 day, maybe 20-day period to finish all that. And so I probably won't ever work on more than 2 or 3 maximum at a time.
Makes sense.
And sometimes these deadlines, they overlap. Mm-hmm. So like I had one that I just turned in today, but it was an editing job. So I turned it in today. A few days ago, I turned in the second milestone for a nonfiction book. This guy is having me write for him. And so they'll just kind of overlap with each other.
So is it something where like you like sit down and just work for like 4-hour chunks at a time, or do you have to kind of like get yourself mentally, and then like, is it, I don't even know what that process looks like, what the getting yourself in the creative mindset, or is it more just grinding away? This is the task and just sit down and do it.
No, I mean, I've got source material to work with, Zoom calls with the client telling pretty much the stories they want to tell about their life. And then I say it on paper the way that they should be saying it, but can't quite articulate. But no, I come back here to my desk probably around 9 a.m. every morning. I'll work until, I want to say 11. Then I host my show, which is on YouTube and Twitter. And then about 1 o'clock, I'll pick back up, work till about 3. And I'm usually clearing between 2 and 5,000 words a day, depending on if it's a fun book to write. I can, 3,000 to 5,000 words a day, but I don't have to do it every day if I hit those milestones, because it's a 17,000 word milestone, right? And so if I do 5,000, why do 5,000 words a day? Because then I've got 17 days left over where I don't have anything to do, and I could take on another client. But then when those milestones come all in at the same time, I've got 7 books that I got to co-write within the same period. I'm like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah. Do you have to pull all-nighters or all weekends and stuff like that, or is it?
Today I worked from about 6 a.m. till 3:30, 4. Just finishing one project. But it's not every day. I mean, some days I don't have to do nothing.
So some people like to get up early and start working early. Others like to stay and kind of burn the midnight oil. What are you more of?
I'm like, I know I'm going to be 38, but I might as well be 78. I'm in bed and asleep by 10:15.
How often do you commit to helping somebody write, but then regret it? Like where you get into their story and you're like, oh man, I don't know if I can do this.
It's been a long time since any of that's happened. And when that happens, I give people their money back and I'm like, you go find somebody else. But my publisher, and she sends everything my way client wise. She'll give me a list of things. Hey, pick a project. Which ones do you want? I'll take that one, and that one. Okay, cool. I'm like, give me the parameters, give me the deets, put it all in ClickUp. And then I go through and look. I'm like, yep, I'll do all these. Got you. And that's it. So I get to do a lot of pre-vetting. But when I was doing it myself, even when I still take independent clients, it's I don't like your vibe and you got a weird face. We're not going to work together.
Well, the longer you do it, the more selective you can be, and when you're in demand. And I don't need to ask you how you make money or how much, but is it like, is it any of it related to the success of the book, like royalties and stuff, or is it purely just for the process of building the book for them that you get paid?
I get paid for the writing of the book.
Okay.
I don't want to take anyone's royalties. I don't want to take I don't want to take anyone's royalties, anyone's sales process, because I used to do marketing and I was great at it, but I friggin' hate it with a passion. So we pass that off to someone else. You pay me for writing the book. So they will pay a flat fee, which is a very significant fee if you want a bespoke book, meaning there's zero AI, any of that. It's just me or one of the other 4 writers that are on staff with the publishing house sit down and write it and hand it over to you. And I get a percentage of that flat fee.
I see. Speaking of AI, since you brought it up, I like to play with toys and use AI for different things. Do you use that at all just for idea generation or organization? Are you a purist that just doesn't, you don't want it in your mind? Or
I use it to build personas.
okay.
So I'll build custom GPTs and I'll input the information, speech pattern, tone, all this other stuff from the calls with a client. And then it spits out like a persona sheet, basically like what an acting coach would, or a director would give an actor. And then since I need to write like that person, I still need to say it better than they can say it, but I still need to sound like them. I use that as a process to quote unquote get into character.
That's interesting. Do you see your line of work as something that is at risk of being more or less replaced by ChatGPT and that, or do you think that's not really a something that's going to happen?
If it does happen, it's not going to happen for a long time, because the thing that AI can't replace are the imperfections that are only made possible by the human hand. Look at any of the great works of art. I mean, I can punch into, Grok and generate this image, and you've got this perfect image, right? Flawless lines. But if I go out to Rome and I walk back into St. Peter's and I'm looking at any of the frescoes in there, there's imperfections on all of them, and they're all individually characteristic. It's the same with a book. There's imperfections in grammar. There's imperfections in context and in syntax from any author you look at. And those are gone without AI, and that's what makes it blatantly obvious AI wrote it.
Are those imperfections like purposely dropped in there, or is that just the natural product of a human doing that? Like it's sort of it's
the natural product of a human doing, and I'm not talking about typos, right? I'm talking about the natural state of humanness that is inevitably just falls out onto the page when you're writing, because we all have certain proclivities for different behaviors and speech patterns, and it can't be emulated by AI.
That's interesting.
Wow.
I never thought about that way.
It's our imperfections that make us special.
Yeah.
Most AI writing, you can tell because it'll use the phrase when delving deep, or if it's fiction, it's as the sun slowly set upon the horizon. It loves to use that for almost every damn thing.
Yeah. Well, then they're training it to like dumb it down, like sound a little dumber, please, and so maybe they'll eventually figure out how to work in enough humanness to it to make it passable. I don't know.
Maybe, but the natural state of any program is to be as efficient as possible.
Yeah.
So it's trying to pretty much fight itself.
Yeah. That's interesting. So the podcast, I have to ask you, so how long have you been doing the podcast, and what was sort of the impetus for you to do it?
Felt like I had something to say, needed some people to say it too. So that's the impetus for starting it. I don't know how long I've been doing it. We're 79, 80 episodes in.
And your co-host.
So I want to say March.
Okay. Because I think I remember when you started, you do it like every day, right? Like every day during the week?
try to, unless I've got a deadline that I'm not going to make, or I've got to go pick up like animal feed, which I had to do today.
Oh, that, yeah. I mean, we've been doing twice a week for a year and a half.
Yep.
Yeah, but you guys have real jobs. I don't.
It was.
You guys are like grown-ups. You have to do it when you're not at work.
Yeah, we typically do it at like 6 o'clock in the morning on 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. So, what have you learned from the podcast? Do you think it's something that you'll continue to do long term? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, we're gonna run it until either it's dead or Ed's dead. Ed's the co-host, but he's been around since Moses was in short pants. And I like the perspective that he, I mean, so we could end the show next week. I don't know.
Okay.
But he's a Byzantine Catholic. So I like the perspective that he brings. And he's a cradle Catholic Byzantine. So he's got, the different, but he's bi-ritual. He still goes to like the Latin Rite. He'll go to a Syriac Rite. He'll go to a Maronite. He'll go to the Byzantine Rite. Because he helps out at all these different parishes where he lives in Jersey. He's very active and very involved in like being a CCD instructor, doing Bible studies. I think he's getting ready to take a position as the head of spiritual direction at one parish. So he's always busy, and he has so many more experiences in the Catholic world than I do. So I think it's a great dynamic, him being born and raised Eastern Rite, Byzantine Catholic, and then me, fresh off the boat, still trying to swim my way off of Ellis Island, as a convert.
I was unaware of bi-ritual Catholics. Like, how does he feel? I don't know if you can express this, but how does he feel about the Eastern Rite versus like the Roman Catholics? Is he fine with both, or how does he feel?
I think he's fine with both. He goes to either one depending on how close it is that day to where he's at. Because he's a CCD instructor at the Byzantine Catholic parish, but he's got a Bible study that he does at a Latin Rite Catholic parish. So
the Byzantine are Eastern, like they're fully in line with Rome. They're not like the
they're one of the 20. No, they are one of the 24 rites that are still in full communion with Rome.
Okay,
because like the Maronites or the Antiochans, or
I've been to the Maronites before.
I think Maronites are Antiochans, so I probably screwed that up.
Oh, sounded smart to me. Because
that's how I get by most things in my life.
Yeah, just sounds smart and wait for someone to correct you. So, have you identified any, other than liturgy, any type of moral or dogmatic differences? Dogmatic might not be the best word, but between like the Byzantines and the Latin Rite, because I know that there are some more significant fundamental moral differences on things between like the Orthodox, notwithstanding the Rome situation, but just like how they apply things like contraception and stuff like that. Is there any noticeable differences?
There's no theological differences.
Mm-hmm.
There's no theological differences. The only thing is difference is what I guess you could attribute to local custom. So, for example, you walk into your parish, you've got pews, you've got kneelers, right? Mm-hmm. There's no pews in a Byzantine, right? You're going to stand. Mm-hmm. You can go up to the communion rail at your parish, kneel down, receive on the tongue. Most places you're going to get one of two species. I don't know if there's any parishes still out there since COVID that do both species. There might be a handful that, but it's usually the host, right? Or maybe if you're lucky, you get the host and the wine. In the Byzantine Rite, they practice intinction, which they have these little cubes of bread, and it's dipped in the wine, and so they have like this golden spoon that they use, and it's pretty much disposable. They're not repeating the same spoon, and they put the host on your tongue there. It's just very small differences as far as the practice in which it does, but it's still the same theology. There's no theology or practice that they hold that is the antithetical to anything coming out of the Latin Rite Church.
Do they have married clergy? Do you know?
You could say it would be something in the Ordo. They do have married clergy.
Okay.
You could say that it's very like one of the main differences would be the Ordo, right? So obviously it's divine liturgy. It's not mass.
Mm-hmm.
It's like in the Maronite, if you're looking at the order of the mass and you're reading through in your missal, right, at your bogus Oreo mass, right? Is that what they call it? The Novus Ordo. And you're like,
Yeah.
we're supposed to do the Agnus Dei, and Maronites are like, no, we don't do that. It's just not in the order of the mass in that rite, but it's still the same faith. Mm-hmm. It's just a different. At one point, I guess you could call it a geographical difference, right? The way people did things in Greece is not the same way they did it in Turkey, even though the theology was the same.
Are there sacraments the same, like infant baptism, communion,
same
confirmation?
The only difference is you get baptized and confirmed as a baby pretty much at birth all at once.
Yeah, I knew. I wasn't sure if that was like the Eastern Rite or if that was more of a Orthodox way of doing things. Okay.
But yeah, so they're still in full communion with Rome, submit to the Pope.
So if I heard you correct, you were sort of the Catholic person you talked about when you started looking at that. I don't know, did they discourage you from starting out at the TLM, but find a parish that had the TLM? You strike me as the type of guy that might feel very at home and comfortable in the TLM and all that. How do you feel about all that? Is that down the progression, or what do you think is going to happen there?
There we go. Not sure what that was. Lost you for a second.
Did you catch any of that?
I heard you mentioned the TLM, and then everything just started going to the loading screen.
Okay. So I'm just curious. It sounded like the Catholic person that kind of gave you some direction on where to start suggested maybe don't start out in the TLM, but maybe find a parish that has it. Or do you see yourself eventually becoming full-fledged into the TLM community? Because there's lots of Catholics, and I'd say a lot of converts that is sort of the progression. They enter the church, find a Novus Ordo, some kind of grow disenfranchised there, and then are sort of full-blown trads. Where do you see yourself in that whole picture?
Mass is mass. Like I said, the TLM is said by the exact same priest at my parish that any of the Novus Ordo masses are. You couldn't travel as far as Mars to find a more reverent Novus Ordo mass that is still all in line with exactly as the liturgy should be. Matter of fact, I just attended a 2.5-hour class this past Saturday with Father Smith on the Latin Mass, and there was a lot that I didn't know. There's a lot that I had heard of, and there's a lot of things that I kind of had misconceptions about. Obviously, that document from Pope John XXIII was stated that it was part of Vatican II was to restore Latin where it had kind of fallen off. But what's funny is it's really hard right now to find that document anywhere, even on the Vatican website. But it does exist because obviously there's, and I'm not even going to deny, there's an obvious push to, kind of put the TLM down. But I don't think it's so much about the TLM. I think it's more about the zealotry that gets attached to the TLM, where it's more of a, It's almost a behavioral of worshiping the mass itself rather than Christ at the mass. And I'm not saying all trads are like this. There's tons that are awesome about it, right? Because I attend Novus Ordo simply because my kids have catechism at 9. They get out at 10 till 9. The mass is at 10, unless I wait till 12 to go to the TLM. But I have a 40-minute drive in between my parish and my house. I don't have the means to be traveling, an extra 80 minutes every single time just to go back home, turn around in the driveway and come back. And I don't plan on eating out every Sunday either. And then having the kids full bellies when you're supposed to be fasting before mass anyway. So I go to the Novus Ordo at the 10. It's a high sung mass, or Massa Cantata. So you end up with a very reverent mass held by the same priest. That is the reason the TLM exists in our parish anyway. And some people say, well, that's not what you're supposed to be doing. Yeah, I don't report to you. I report to Rome. But I go to TLM whenever I can, as far as if it's not on Sunday when I'm taking my family. Like if we have, for example, All Souls Day, right? Very small mass, but it's usually a Latin mass in my parish. If I've got other stuff to do in the week and I'm going to be down on that side of the town and driving 40 minutes isn't something I had to specifically plan, there's a Latin mass going on, I go. I'm not against the Latin mass. I'm against irreverent guitars and tambourines Novus Ordos. Yeah. Like, I will fight you in the parking lot with my face.
I believe it.
But that's what I love about my parish is we've got the Latin mass, we've got the Novus Ordo, and nobody actually cares which mass you go to. They are equally interchangeable. Mm-hmm. And I see people like, oh, I didn't come to 10 because I had to work, so I went to the Latin mass. Oh, I came to the 10 because I wanted to go to my mom's house this afternoon and needed to be there during when the Latin mass was going on, so I came early. No one cares. They act like normal human beings.
I find that interesting and refreshing, and I guess different than my own personal experience with. I consider myself a recovering traditionalist, so I kind of grew up. We were Catholic, but really in name only. We kind of, as a family, when I was a teenager, became serious, but kind of grew. We were in a very liberal diocese, and all the, like you said, the clown masses and stuff like that. And then I, going to the first Latin mass is like, wow, I don't have to be sitting here scrutinizing whether this mass is licit or not. And that was so refreshing. And then,
well, you have to remember when you go to the Latin mass, there's no rubrics for the people.
Right. Right? It was it was nice to just
shut
go
up
to
and
mass.
You're fine. You can do that.
Yeah. It was nice to just go to mass and not have to be like self-inflicting all this. And then, but then traditionalism is, you become a traditionalist, and then you start to, like, I don't know, a lot of people, myself included, so you start doubting, you start disputing Vatican II, and everything that's happened since 1952 is an error, and we haven't had a pope since the 1950s. And that was the path that I was on. I was like, something's wrong here. Like, I don't think I can be Catholic and just ignore everything that's happened. And I had to find a way to kind of like synthesize all that. So we ended up in an area where we have what I think are good quality reverent Novus Ordo masses, and that takes a lot of that pressure away. But my sense is that where we have Latin masses around here, there is not collaboration. That goes both ways. I mean, I think the Novus Ordo community tends to be just as inhospitable to the other, but there's this suspicion of each other.
Man, you would love it down here. You got to come out to my parish. You would love it down here. They're just adults.
Here, it'd be hot all the time. I don't want to.
It's just adults behaving like adults,
and that's right? What it should be. Like
we have a seminarian from my parish who is entering into the priesthood in the fraternity of St. Peter. Mm-hmm. Guess what happened when they announced that at the Novus Ordo Mass, or after the Novus Ordo Mass had ended at my parish?
They were excited for him. I hope. Yeah.
Everybody clapped and said, "Good luck."
Yeah. And that's the way it should be. Like somehow that is not the norm. And maybe it's because in most cases it's not the same priest. You'll have, an order priest. The fraternity, I think, tried very hard and continue to try hard to like get along with the local ordinaries and the local parishes. But I think some orders, I think, tend to foster this sense of division and separation, and we are the church, and come here, and people drive 3 hours to go to mass and stuff, and that doesn't seem like a healthy environment. And I don't know what the answer to that is, but that I see that playing out around here when I am exposed to traditionalism.
Yeah, I'm fortunate. The only place I have ever actually witnessed that, and I'm at church 4 days a week, is on, and the only time I've ever witnessed any of that crap is online.
There's a lot of it online. There's a lot of it online. Well, I'm very.
But you know what? There's going to be people that say, "Well, I don't agree with what you said. I don't care."
Yeah,
that's fine. I don't think mass is mass. Take it up with God. Argue with him. Don't argue with me. I've got 9 kids to feed and books to write.
Yeah, it is nice to, but it's hard not to get. I don't know. I find it hard not to sometimes get drug into those conversations and take that to heart. And like, what if they're right? Like, what if they said is right and I'm wrong about this? And I still struggle with those kinds of those dilemmas, which is why we have a podcast and we talk about stuff all the time.
What if you're right? What if you're right, they're wrong? What if they're right, you're wrong? To me, it falls under the it kind of falls under that umbrella of the concept of the pious pagan. That say there's someone who has zero clue, has never heard about Christ, lives, uncontacted tribe in the Amazon, no opportunity to go and talk about to anybody that's ever going to mention Christ to them. Are they destined to go to hell? No, because of the pious pagan. It's not their fault they don't know. And it's not your fault, or it's not their fault if there's things it's not my fault if there's things we don't know. Mm-hmm. You have to knowingly commit and willingly commit a mortal sin. You have to have the truth in your hands, have everything right there in front of you, and still reject it.
No, you're not doing that. Agree.
Yeah, no, that's you're singing our tune, and that's something that we talk a lot about in our group. Talk about that, because
the question is, are you as pig-headed as you are Midwestern?
Probably.
Because if you discover the truth, are you gonna say, well, I was wrong, even if I don't agree with it? Because that's how I like to do it. I mean, I'm as hard-headed as they come, if it hasn't been made completely and blatantly obvious by this point. And it sucks to have to admit when I'm wrong. But one of the greatest, most freeing things about the Catholic faith for me is that I get to choose that path of, I don't know, God, but I trust you, and I don't need to understand it to follow it. There's something freeing in that.
Yeah, I think
it's important I understand it, but if I'm too stupid to figure out, because, missing brain cells and things like that, if I'm too stupid to figure out the truth or figure out why the truth is true, but still believe it's true, that's okay.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Where I might diverge a little bit is I think sometimes we undervalue our senses, and we tend to overlook the same humanness that even doctors of the church had. Saint St. Thomas Aquinas, as brilliant as he was a fallen human being with his own
Of course.
limitations. St. Augustine had his rather, notable history and struggles and things like that.
Lord, make me chaste, just not right now.
Yeah, right. Like, and I'm not saying I'm a St. Augustine or a St. Thomas Aquinas, but I'm not a dummy either. And I sometimes think that there's this tendency, and I'm not talking about like well-established dogma, but just some of the things that have been said in the past by people simply because they are saints. I think sometimes it's easy to give too much deference to them and discount our own ability as 21st century. Is it 21st century?
Yep.
Individuals, and that's where I struggle with. Is for me, when I was 20 some years old, I had no issues. Like, this is all easy. I felt sort of like you as a new Catholic. Like, I didn't have any problems with any. As I've gotten older, some of this stuff is more difficult for me to understand because I have life experience that I didn't have then. That doesn't mean the church is wrong and I'm right or whatever, but there is more tension, I find, or more difficulty in simply resigning myself, because at times it feels like I have to just disregard entirely my own actual experience. And my experience is colored by the fact that I'm a fallen human being, but so was Augustine, so was Thomas Aquinas, so was St. Alphonsus Liguori. And that's the part of it that I struggle to deal with, because I do want it to be faithful to the church, but I can't deny that there are times that things that we're told, I can't for the life of me always understand why, and I try to be humble about it, but maybe I just spend too much time.
Well, I look at it like this. I look at it like this. We actually talked about something like this on my show. Let's just bring up Marian apparitions, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you believe that every Marian apparition that was approved by the church happened? The answer is it doesn't matter if you do or not.
Yeah.
You're not required to.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree with every single thing that St. Elizabeth Seton said, or anything Thomas Aquinas said? Or let me see who's on my wall here. I got St. Joseph, I got St. Sebastian, I got St. Michael, I got St. Benedict, Thomas Aquinas again. I've got Padre Pio. I don't have to agree with or believe that they actually said any of the things they said.
Mm-hmm.
And me being a faithful Catholic isn't contingent on that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not required to believe in any of the miracles that canonize these saints.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not required to believe in any of the Marian apparitions. Do I? Yeah, I do. But I'm not required to.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing in dogma and there's nothing in doctrine that I don't have a problem believing. Or that I do have a problem believing.
Mm-hmm.
That there's nothing in dogma or doctrine that I don't believe. There's a lot in there that I don't understand. But to be quite frank, I'm busy. I'm either gonna look. I've either got to go right or I've got to go get in my pool.
Yeah.
All right. These are very important things, and if I don't understand it, I'll make a note of it over here on this whiteboard, and I'll be like, I'll text Father Smith later and have him explain it to me, because he's a much more intelligent man than I am. And if I still don't understand it, I'll text him back with a thumbs up emoji and go get back in the pool and be like, he explained it. He sounds like he knows what he's talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm more or less like that. I would say that here I'm going to probably get accused of being a heretic, but this literally came up in the last week. There's been all kinds of infighting between Catholics and Protestants on the perpetual virginity of Mary, which I understand is a dogma of the church. And I brought it up in confession this last weekend because I was talking to the priest. He was asking for an example. And I said, personally, it wouldn't matter to me one way or another whether Mary continued to be a virgin after Jesus was born. Like, if she wasn't and had other children, I'm more than happy to incorporate that into my life. And if she didn't, that's fine. Like, it it doesn't really affect my day-to-day existence, whether she was always a virgin or not. And I see where some Protestants come from scripture to suggest that she wasn't. I don't have a lot of investment in that fight, other than that fight seems to keep coming to me and makes me think about it. And I'm like, I'd rather just not have to worry about that, because it honestly doesn't matter to me one way or another. Whatever the church says is fine, but I don't, it doesn't impact me. Where we tend to get involved is the stuff that does impact our day-to-day lives as Catholics, as married men, struggling, trying to be faithful on the day-to-day level, and a lot of the moral stuff that we talk about. I just find that much more in my face and much more impacts my day-to-day life.
Yeah, like for example, the NFP thing affects you a lot more directly than did Padre Pio levitate?
Exactly. It's a day-to-day thing in my life that I have to deal with.
I don't know. I'm not thinking about Padre Pio every
right.
single day. I am married every single day, and I am looking at all of these 9 intimacy trophies that are running around this house.
That's right. That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
And I realize that I don't have room on the shelf for a 10th. So that actually affects me every day. Look, I think it's great when people can be honest and say, I struggle with this aspect of faith versus, no, I believe absolutely everything. I'm not to the point where I can say I don't struggle with it. I'm saying I don't know enough to struggle with it. And if I do come across something, I ask questions, and I'm not afraid to go and tell my priest, yo, dog, this don't make sense. In exactly that voice, because apparently that's how I talk all the time. I'm Randy Jackson over here. That's a no from me, dog. But if you struggle with something, and there's another Catholic going, how do you dare struggle with this? Oh, gee, I don't know. I'm human. I'm glad that you don't have any struggles with anything about the Catholic faith. Teach me, oh wise one.
Yeah.
I can't wait to go to your shrine when you're canonized. A lot of it's just hubris. That's really what it is. It's hubris, right? And maybe some of it's shame. No one wants to admit that they struggled with believing something. I have no problem saying I'm not well versed enough to have found something to struggle with yet, but I'm also kind of like that happy-go-lucky idiot. If I find something that I do struggle with, I go, I don't need to know. It's just true. I'm capable of doing that. Do you understand why it's true? Absolutely not. But it's true.
Yeah.
I treat when it comes to those things, I treat it exactly the way I treat the Trinity, because there's zero chance in zero ways that you can describe the Trinity accurately without coming off heretical.
Right.
So I treat it the exact same way. I can't really explain it, but I know it's real.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good attitude to have. And I wish I could carry that attitude into the day-to-day stuff. But like you said,
yeah, that's a Southern thing. You're Midwestern. It doesn't work.
I don't think I've ever had to go to confession and talk about my struggles with believing the miracle about Padre Pio. But I spent a lot of time in confession talking about things that happened in my marriage, and and that's it. What the one thing that I've observed that frustrates me to no end, and why we do our show at least, is I think it's very easy to not have empathy and charity for people that are going through things that I myself haven't gone through. And that's really what we try to talk about. Is there? I use you as an example. You have
not great.
You've had the fortune of not having to worry about NFP and all that kind of stuff, and I consider you very fortunate. We deal with NFP on a constant basis, and it really messes with my life a lot. And I have those struggles. We have, but my struggles aren't as bad as a lot of people. We know people that they have to go weeks and months and years with nothing because of the way the cycles are. And I can't even imagine what that is like. In what I see online is typically traditionalists. I don't mean to pick on the trads. Like, oh, that's just the way it is. No one ever said marriage is going to be easy. Suck it up and deal with it. I'm like, yeah, that's real easy for you to say. But
I mean, it is true, but it's anything else. It is what it is. Here's the thing. There's plenty of stuff out there that it is what it is, whether you like it or not. And it's kind of like one of those things being the truth of Catholicism. The truth of Catholicism applies to atheists. It applies to Protestants. It applies to Buddhists. Like it or not, Catholicism is true, and it's the only true thing. Well, I don't believe that. Well, the truth isn't contingent upon your belief. There's that said. But when it comes to things like, for example, you having to remain chaste in your marriage, because if you don't, it's a mortal sin. It sucks and it's hard. Yes, correct it is. That is, you were 100% correct. It sucks. It's hard. That is not a euphemism. And guess what? You're human. You're not going to slip on purpose and try to use the sacrament of penance as a get out of hell free card. And it's right that you suffer because it's supposed to be hard. And it's never, ever, ever going to get easier until you're like my co-host age. And
how old is he? I got to know. What's the what am I shooting for here?
I don't know. He was like 50 in 1973.
Okay. Not here to defend himself. Yeah.
Right. He's watching right now, and so he's laughing. He's going to get it tomorrow.
Well,
but it's going to suck. But guess what? Whether you like it or not, it is what it is. It's not easy. It's never going to be. That is part of the burden that we have to endure right here on this earth. And thank God for the sacrament of penance, because if it was a one and done thing, I wouldn't have made it out of the gate.
I will. If I say anything at all, I say what we talk about and struggle with. If there's any fruit in there, I'm well acquainted with the priests in the confessional. Like I'm, for better or for worse, I'm a regular.
Listen, Craig, when I go in there, I keep a small little helium balloon with me, so he has no idea it's me.
Yeah,
because
right.
I've got a very distinctive voice.
Darth Vader.
Like I gotta be in there like the killer from Scream.
Yeah.
Me, Father.
Yeah,
right. Just so he doesn't recognize my voice. And
yeah.
that's why I'm thankful we've got 2 or 3 priests roaming around the parish all the time.
Yeah.
Like I go every other week, right? Unless I screw up and I realize I screwed up, then I make it each week.
You again?
Like, I saw him last week. I'm going to give him a full month of not hearing my voice before I head
Let him
back over
recover
there.
a little bit.
Well, it's not even that. I just want to be like, oh, I recognize your lisp, or I recognize your voice. Or like I wear a different cologne every time I go in there, so I smell different.
Really throw him off.
Yeah, it smells like pine saw. Thinks I'm a housewife.
That's right. A very deep voice, but yeah. All right.
It's a tobacco thing. Sorry.
That's okay.
As a full-grown housewife, sounding like this is blame it on the smoking I did back in the 70s.
God, you talk like you're an old man, but you're
younger
younger than me. Like I just like
Father, I'm a 23-year-old woman.
That's right. That's right.
Why do you sound like Johnny Cash? None of your business.
It's not the age, it's the miles, honey.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
That's right.
that's right. Hey, we've been prattling along a while here. Anything that you're itching to talk about, or we haven't given you a chance to cover before we start to wrap it up and go back to our domestic responsibilities?
No, man, I told you at the get-go, I was pretty much an open book. The conversation could go wherever it went.
Okay. Well, we didn't get a ton of talk about manly Catholic marriage, but we kind of nibbled around the edges, and I think got to some.
That's all right. We can always do another episode. It's just not going to be at 6 a.m. because this is my office, but it's also my bedroom. My wife's over there at 6 a.m. And I won't be around for more than 5 minutes of that episode.
Yeah, we can't do it at home because Jonah's laugh will wake up the house, so we have to go off-site to do it. So
makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I've thoroughly enjoyed this. I think we should do it again sometime.
Definitely.
I appreciate, and I know you and I have exchanged some tweets and stuff, and sometimes I come across as I'm confrontational. I appreciate you.
No, you're not confrontational. You keep assuming I'm confrontational.
And that's
it's like my wife always thinking. No, it's like my wife thinking I'm mad. I'm like, babe, it's just my friggin' face.
Yeah. I'm just so used to a certain group of people coming at me that way that I forget that I appreciate that you are you seem much more reasonable and open-minded.
Oh, well, this didn't go well at all if you think I'm reasonable.
Yeah, well, we'll give you another chance at another episode, but I appreciate
the next one.
Yeah, I appreciate what you do out there and allowing goofballs like me to prattle on Twitter and try to talk about things that don't always come across the right way. But I'm just a regular dude, middle age in my life, fallen a lot, learned some things, trying to be a good Catholic. I've got kids that are out of the house. I'm still changing diapers. Like I'm on the whole spectrum.
You do it all.
There are just some things that I realized I needed to talk about, and that's what we do. And not everyone wants to hear it, but I guess that's the nature of the business, right?
Yeah, we don't do it for the money. We just do it because we need to scream into the ether sometime.
Yeah. That's the great thing about the internet and podcasting and all that. It gives you a chance to speak your mind, for better or for worse.
I do have one more question.
It looks way less weird me talking to you guys, and other than me like talking to the chickens outside.
Good enough.
Something you said earlier kind of stuck with me.
Francis, is that you?
Oh, I think we're lagging there a little bit. I do have one more question for you. Something you said earlier kind of struck me. Do you really have tattoos in your nipples?
No. I said knuckles to knuckles.
Oh, that's a Freudian slip.
Look, I know I've got a southern accent, but come on.
I don't know.
We got pretty good. I don't know. We got pretty good headphones here. I don't know. Well, I'll have to check the transcript.
Did you hear nipples?
I didn't hear either one. I heard knuckles. I did not hear nipples, and I would normally hear that.
I think Jonah's got some explaining to do.
How long has it been since you got your last tattoo?
Probably about 3 years.
Okay.
I had to stop getting them on my hands because they were in boxing gloves.
Oh,
I can see that.
Like it made it worse. Every time I hit someone, it's like I can't even hit them hard now.
Yeah. I've always been too chicken to get tattoos. Like I'm kind of a chicken overall.
It doesn't interest me.
No, doesn't interest
Marriage is permanent enough for me.
Yeah.
Well, women will be like, I know a good place. And then they take you to the lowest point of your life.
Next time we'll get the wives on, maybe, and let them.
Oh, yeah. Good luck with that. I'm sorry. I'm a hardcore rad trad. I don't let her out of the kitchen. She's chained to the stove and she's currently barefoot. I've actually got to go feed her.
Okay. Well, we don't want to be held responsible for her hunger, so we'll.
I mean, she ate yesterday. She can wait a little bit.
Keep that figure. All righty. Well, I'm winding down, and my voice is starting to fail me. So, hey, we'll probably put this on our YouTube channel. We'll link to your show. I hope we can do it again sometime. I've enjoyed this, and I like the cross pollination that we've been able to do here in the midst of all the hate that seems to go with Catholic online debate. This has been very pleasant. At least I've enjoyed it. I hope you have too.
Wasn't that bad.
That's right. Alrighty.
I've had
Well-
worse. No, it was great, guys. I appreciate you having me on.
I appreciate your time. Appreciate you hosting it on your Twitter account. So thank you everyone who's listened. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Jonah. Until next time, everyone.
Bye.
Have a good one.